My talks is about smartphone addictions among teenagers. And this is an empirical study, and the whole idea of this study is going to go into phases. Because once we are presenting this study, there will be a lot of interest among a lot of my colleagues, and we will turn it into a grant, research grant, where we're going to look at different aspects of it. So if you look at addictions, is nothing more than refer to a loss of control over personal behavior. And basically, it will lead us to negative consequences. Information technology also has its own addictions. And in the addictions, information technology is people are getting very obsessed in using technology. I think this is a very familiar phenomenon. We could see it even at home with our children. In my house, all my children are really playing with the mobile, and we put the plasma TV on. And lately I see that everybody is with the mobile and less of the plasma TV watching. So smartphone has changed us as a society. And as a result of that, there was a lot of interest among researchers to look into the smartphone and its implications. What are the driving force and what is the impact? Technically speaking, as the literature says, there are 6 symptoms. We're going to discuss that. But for now, among these are the silence, the withdrawal, and the conflict within the family. On the other hand, there is an effect of smartphone addictions. This has to do with health. This is a very interesting. It's coming from the from a report which is GSMA, and it's a basic global specialized monitors on smartphone penetrations. And it's basically looking at different continents. And in this report, 2015, there, as you see, that basically the average, penetrations globally is 41%. That's the average. But when it comes to the Middle East, it's very interesting. We have 2 categories. We have countries where it's below 50, and we have countries where it's above 75. That's the penetration rate. And the GCC are those countries, and one of the factors has to do with the income of the people in this society, GDP. So this leads us to the questions of the research, which is, do parents aware of the impact of smartphone addictions and among their teenagers? So we're looking at smartphone addictions from perspective of the parents, and if they become aware, what are the driving force in their view for that addictions? So this study is looking from the parents' point of view. The aim of the study is to explore the addictions of a smartphone within the teenagers from the parents' perspective, and at the same time, in order to have a significant value where basically it will do recommendations to those technology-related developers where they have more control later on in having some control over the apps in a technological manner. The study is basically has a lot of heavy on a literature review, and the literature review usually goes into 2 frames. The first frame is the theoretical concept, and the other one is what we call the empirical studies. And as a result of that literature review, it will lead us to what we call the conceptual framework. So upon reviewing the literature review, we see there is a driving force. And the studies, for example, in 1988, 2000s, by Lin, says that the behavior of addictions is similar to any addictions such as gambling, alcohol, or drugs. Also, some studies has identified that there is a problematic issues when it comes to a smartphone adoptions among the young people. In a study of 2014, basically they associated their finding that there is a relationship between shyness and loneliness. people who tend to be very shy and lonely, they are using a smartphone more, so they will be more addicted to that. Also, we look at the functional impairment of the study, and in a study of 2006 by Doucet, basically stated that positions of the mobile by individuals make the family relationship is very weak. At the same time, it's also in another study, 2007, it says that basically they conclude that it's dilute the relationship with the family. Some researcher has went in 2016 to the extent that a smartphone is basically cause an accident, since it is make an argumentative within the family and lead to accident. Also, they link the addictions of a smartphone to obesity, and today we have seen some of the speakers have mentioned about obesity, and the child activity become very less. Some expert has gone to the extent where they are saying that basically a smartphone should not be given to a child less than an age of 7 years old. Compulsory behaviors and other dimensions, and that is a driving force. And here is that a mobile use is as an addictive, is basically an Australian study identified that the average rate of using a smartphone among young people goes from 1.5 hours to 5 hours per day. This has led to the what's called attaching yourself to the mobile, becoming loss of control and withdrawal symptoms. When this comes to withdrawal symptoms, a Korean study has gone to the extent and said that smartphone addictions led to them to categorize people into 3 categories: a very high risk group, low to medium group, and what we call general group. All of these have a tolerance factors. Another study by Schultz, 2012, evaluated the mobile phone dependency and among the children and said that the results shows that girls has a high degree of dependency on a mobile, than boys. And as a result of that, girls are more attached to the mobile in that. And also, this is getting to the results because they want to make a friendship and improve their mood. As a result of that, there is an economic factors into this such behavior. Other studies by Tullers in 2015, 34 participants, and were given a mobile for about a year. And later on, they were taken away, the mobile taken away from them. And once they find themselves having anxiety to use the mobile. So they were they cannot find the mobile, they will come in an anxiety mood. Another study, 2015, also effect of smartphone addictions on the health of the people, which led to also conclude that it has a negative impact on the academic performance of the young people. Interestingly, in 2009, another study mentioned parents and caregivers basically mentioned that they find it is very difficult to communicate with their children, and smartphone is being as a subject of interruptions. This is the literatures, and the literatures, as you see, there are about 25 literatures. And from these literatures, what we do what we call the matrix. And we're looking at those factors, and we see each of these studies, which kind of matrix factors they are covering. So the one with the dots mean this study is covering that particular factors. As a result of this matrix analysis of a literature review, we were able to adapt this study and use it for the questionnaire. So the literature review has contributed to understanding of the addictions, at the same time understanding the empirical study, and also led to understand what is the kind of instrument to be used in a questionnaire to adapt. For this study, we have adopted this kind of the questionnaires in this study, and the conceptual framework is basically there are a driving force, and these are the driving force, and those driving force lead to smartphone addictions, which going to lead to impact on the behavior. As you see, there are 6 factors, and for the impact, there are 4 factors. When it comes to the driving force, there is the information seeking, and there is the perceived enjoyment, mood regulations, passing time, and conformity, and social relationship. When it comes to impact, there is also compulsive behavior, functional impairment, intolerance, and withdrawal. As we have seen in the early of this presentation, we have mentioned the empirical study in these areas. As a result, questionnaires were developed, being adapted from from one of the literature study by Lin. And in this study, we adapted the questionnaires and distributed to our subject. There are 3 major components, areas of the questionnaire: the demographics and the driving force factors, which is mapped to the conceptual framework, and also the impact of the factors of the related to the conceptual framework. The populations, remember, this is a preliminary study, and it's going to be extended also more. We're looking at more other factors. Basically, the populations were targeting the Bahraini parents in respective or their children, they own a mobile or not. The calculations of the sample size is a snowball, convenience, and also we look at that. We've done the analysis. Interestingly, if you look at it, the majority of the people were male, and also what we have found that basically when it comes to the information, okay, as you see, there is an even distribution when it comes to enjoying by teenagers, when it comes to the impact. Now, this will take me to testing the hypothesis, and the hypothesis is stated: information seeking is not statistically significant associated with adoptions of smartphone, and this is based on the finding is accepted. As for the statement of the hypothesis, which is perceived enjoyment is not significantly associated with smartphone addictions, is rejected. Social relationship is also rejected, and mood regulations is rejected, and pastime is rejected, and formality. Now, doing that, if you look, the finding of this study is also aligned with the finding of 3 international studies. To conclude, since I am in a hurry and they give me only 30 seconds, we could say the following. We could say that in Bahrain, based on a preliminary study that we have done, okay, the smartphone addictions is not much different than from different parts of the world. However, it's for the hypothesis testing is aligned with the same as other study finding, in which the information seeking has no any impact on the addictions. So for the other five perceiving enjoyment, social relationship, mood, and pastime, and conformalities, all of them, they get rejected. That means they do have an impact on the addictions. Such a study will lead us to understand more of the addictions with respect to whether on a family also, whether at work, whether on a female or male, or by profession. Hopefully next year, I'm going to present for you a more extended research in line with that will look at the different spectrum of addictions of smart mobile in different area and professionalism, and we're going to look at whether there is among male and female young, or there is a difference among profession or in a banking or in other sectors. Thank you. I am in a hurry, but I'll take your one.